with many funding ventures, investment firms, and angel investors. And besides this, Preeti speaks 6 languages, including a very difficult Mandarin and Bhasha Melayu of Indonesia. She loves to travel. She has traveled more than 18 countries on 4 continents, and this number is still counting. She has lived in 3 different countries as well, including in China for more than 7 years. Preeti, on behalf of IIM Sirmaur, I invite you for the panel discussion. So we have 2 Preeti at the moment, right? So not to confuse Preeti Firani. So that's an introduction from my side. So I invite Aditya Pal Singh in capacity of moderator for the panel discussion. Mr. Aditya, now panel is yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for inviting the whole panel, and we are all privileged to speak to the students. The topic of discussion which was shared with us was consumer behavior in the post-pandemic world where we are living in. The world, will be obviously very different post-pandemic, and I hope we get into that stage pretty fast. It's predominantly, we've already seen a lot of consumer behavior change as we go further up. Brands are trying to understand how do we look at a better living, and also, social distancing, moving most of the things to online, moving towards self-improvement. Organizations looking at storytelling, the way they look at things more differently. So the world has moved in a very different direction as we speak. What I would do is, I have picked up some of those questions, which I feel will be pretty relevant to the people around, and first in the group. Preeti, my first question is to you. There is a huge movement by virtue of COVID to move from in-store to online. So what is the changes which you're seeing? What do you foresee in the future? What will happen? Preeti.
Thank you, Adi, for that question. And first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this panel discussion today. It is all about learning and growth. And with that as an opportunity, I am here doing my bit in imbibing all the knowledge that will be doled out in the next 1.5 hours. So thank you very much to the student community and the faculty at IIM Sirmaur for this opportunity. Coming to the question, Adi, thank you for asking that of me. I think it is so relevant in the last 15 months or so, the kind of shift that we have seen happen. I have various personal perspectives to it. For me, the shift from offline rather, to online brings out a lot of opportunities, as well as it is problematic for some. So I will try and tackle a few of those things by examples that I have seen or lived in my own experience. So while we all know the entire shift from offline to online has certain advantages, so you have global access, 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week. You have cost savings because you're available at the tip of a finger and you don't really have to then run a brick and mortar business. You are sort of in the eyes and hands of your end consumer day in and day out. Also, there are certain sort of negative aspects associated with it, and the most, in my viewpoint, being, too many things, too many choices. So there's sort of a saturation that sort of happens. For me, it is also important to have a touchy-feely kind of an experience, So in the absence of less and less of brick and mortar stores, with the entire experience moving online, you miss out on those then and there consumer and end customer insights, because that touchy-feely is not there. You're not physically going into a store. Apart from that, I also think that it is negativity sort of spreads faster in an online environment versus an offline sort of an environment, because the reviews are all out there for the entire world to see, you know. So management of the image per se also becomes challenging. Having said that, I think I will talk about the opportunities a little bit here. Adi, since you've asked about the movement from offline to online, I think it looking at the digitalization in our country, in India, it had been going on at a sort of a regular sort of in its own time pace, you know. But then the last 15 months or so have quickly accelerated that process. And what would have taken maybe, I don't know, 5, 10 years, 5, 7, 10 years, has quickly accelerated, and most of the businesses are online, because if they're not there, then they're going to lose the market share. But herein lies the obstacles, I think, for the more traditional businesses in the tier 2, 3, 4 Bharat, where the digital divide is huge. You know, when it comes to the basics, the infrastructure, not everywhere has internet penetration. Not everyone has a smartphone or a device which is compatible to taking your business online. Not everybody has the knowledge or the wherewithal. More than that, our local shops, our mom and pop shops, are not sort of capable to move so I think for sort of diaspora, or if you want to call it a community, a business community in our country. I'm not sure what's going on. Am I audible? Right.
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Thank you so much. Right. There seems to be some sort of a lag here, but that's okay. What I was trying to say was exactly this digital divide, wherein you know, it creates a huge sort of a chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The other sort of obstacle rather, which I see, is then the conglomerates, the people with who have all the deep pockets and all of that, they stand to sort of gain, and it becomes a monopolistic society wherein there is not much diversification or diversity in the kind of people that can do business, especially also for the marginalized communities like self-help groups, like women self-help groups, rural communities. Because of these availability of resources, I think it comes more as a challenge. But overall, I would say it has opened up tremendous possibilities with the move from offline to online. Look at the job opportunities, the newer ones that have come up to play. You know, you have people in the content marketing space, you have huge teams being deployed in the automation, you have huge teams being deployed in the search engine optimization of all of it. You have huge teams being deployed to take your business from brick and mortar, physical, to online. I mean, and I'm sure Pratyush will be able to sort of add a bit more to the technology side of it. But all I'm saying is, with the movement, fast-paced movement in technology, come opportunities and obstacles, both hand in hand. The point is to be able to sort of include everyone in this process, and that is something which I'm really passionate about, that nobody needs to be left behind. The whole process would sort of trickle down to the real have-nots of the society only when we as leaders make a conscious effort towards including everyone and being a part of this journey. So Adi, in conclusion, I would say, I think it is a tremendous opportunity where everybody can take part and be a solution provider for the inclusion into this economic opportunity for all. So whether it is the government, whether it is the leaders, whether it is the business community, whether it is individuals like you, me, and everybody else. So I think I rest my case by saying that it is a 50-50%. The onus should be on us to move the 50% of obstacles towards slowly, say, 75 to 100% of opportunities. Thank you very much. It is back to you, Adi.
Thanks, Preeti. Let me now. As we become more conscious consumers, right, there is now a lot of focus on self-improvement. We want to hear your inputs on that area.
So thank you, Aditya. Can you hear me well? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, like what Preeti said, I think it is, my extreme privilege, to be invited by IIM, the Himalayan IIM. But I must say, it would have been better had we been there in person, because what I have experienced is that there is no um, greater joy than meeting people and be at the fantastic campuses that IIMs have. To be there. The last one which I visited was Shillong, and believe me, it was an experience in itself to be there, to be in person with people. I hope that this thing is not forever. The virtual environment is not forever. But I do believe that, we soon should be able to see face to face, like what we are looking at in the US. They are off their masks. So I'm just waiting for that opportunity that our Prime Minister does a 8 p.m. announcement that from tonight, everybody is off their masks. I'm just waiting for that announcement to come. And then perhaps and another session in IIM like this, where we are able to connect in person. But Aditya, you raised a very valid point in terms of self-improvement. I think there cannot be a better opportunity than a COVID to learn about how we have to change ourselves. And this change has to come. So if I look at as an individual, so let me first start from my own individual experience, not my own, but all of us here in the room. Um, Whether I should look at this situation with a pinch of salt, or whether I should be dejected, or whether I should let go my studies. So I was talking to my boys. Both of them are, one of my son is 24, the other one is 21, and they are doing their respective masters. Both of them are very energetic and about whatever they're doing. But the other students on this forum, uh, they are a little overwhelmed about online teaching. And there are bouts of those moments which come into their mind, whether we should do this master that we are doing, or should we drop this year. So should I continue with my education, or should I take up a job? So as a parent, my advice to my boys is, it is no different. Even if you do your job, you are again sitting in front of the screen. And given the situation today, it's so tough to get up and find a job. It is better to use this opportunity, which is a COVID opportunity, to continue that learning experience. So my advice to my boys is, and everybody on this portal, is that sometimes people think that it may be a better idea. Some people are going through a very difficult social economical situation, and perhaps they may be thinking that, should I drop, and should I join a earning opportunity? So my belief is that it is a right time to continue with your education during these tough times, even though it's online. Because if you see, educational institutions worldwide have adopted this online version. So if you look at Harvard, Oxford, like yourself, IIMs, I think what people are being taught online will become at par with physical education. For example, about 10 years ago, nobody heard about executive education, 10 or 15 years ago. And then the executive education format started, by IIMs and by other institutions and internationally. And now it's a new phase, which is an online education. Perhaps the need for executive education was to get students who are in the corporate sector, but that was a different requirement. But now COVID is giving another chance for educational institutions to evolve and develop and give that medium of education to students which are of the same value as a physical, in-class education system. So the advice is for a person to continue learning. For me, ever since I was a student in graduation, I have not dropped a year till now. 27 years of my work experience, I still learn, I still pursue academics, I still learn. So I have done 13 degrees as of now, which will continue. So my advice is, whether it's COVID or not COVID, nothing changes for me. For me, the education is the only key. And as we say in our Indian mythology, that Saraswati Puja brings Lakshmi. So for me, Saraswati Puja is more important than a Lakshmi Puja. So my advice to all students is that continue that learning process despite the difficulties you are facing. So that is one. That is on the self-improvement, Aditya, for an individual to continue learning in whatever form, whether degrees or learning. The other piece is for the organizations. So organizations also get a very important chance to improve themselves. So what we have seen is all of us talk about e-commerce booming, but just imagine that e-commerce is only a fraction of the global trade. In India, it is not even, I think, 10 or 15% of the total retail trade that e-commerce caters to. So we are looking at a sector which is 80-85% still not adapted to this e-commerce solutions. So for them, there is a big opportunity or a risk, both, because what we have seen is that companies who have not been able to adapt themselves to the growing demands of becoming resilient and sustainable during the times of COVID will definitely perish. So all of us are very good at smartphones, using Amazon, Flipkart, others on purchasing. But what about a Kirana store? For example, me and my wife, we went out last night. I wanted to have an ice cream. So the first reaction which came, don't go to that dabba wala or thele wala. Go to a 24/7 to buy your ice cream. So the question is that if a mom and pop store, which is not adapted to an online shopping experience, how will that person survive? How will that small business survive? How will an MSME survive? That is the question. And the question is, how quickly are these people able to adapt themselves to the COVID threat? So this COVID threat is for real. It may go away. We have seen instances in the past that sometimes it has taken several years for vaccines to develop and become effective so that people come out of their homes without any fear. But as of now, what we are looking at is India, the reality is only 5 or 6% of our population is fully vaccinated. It will take a while before that confidence comes back. But till then, what do the organizations do? What do the employees do? So unless your employees are able to work from home fully, for example, an airline, can an airline be work from home? It cannot be. Can armed forces be a work from home? Cannot be. Education system and other businesses like e-commerce, retail can be perhaps online, but that is not the only business we are talking about. We are talking about the overall economy. And that is the problem that we are facing today, that this COVID times gives us a great opportunity to evolve and transform ourselves. And that is what is important, that organizations should talk about employees. So for example, some of the companies like Deloitte announced that work from home forever. So that to me is a great announcement. But how many of you would like to work from home? How many of you would not want to have a corporate experience working in a physical office of a multinational or an Indian multinational or your own business? Would you want to be a CEO of your company and sit at home and work? Would you not want to be a part of the overall employee base where you are applauded every year, or you applaud people in person, you pat on their back? Can this online work from home be a substitute for that? I don't think so. But in order to make your business resilient and in order to make your business sustainable, it is important that we have to think about this kind of a situation which was unheard of 2 years ago. And we have to ensure that the businesses are resilient and sustainable. So opening remarks, Aditya, from me, but I will add more thoughts later.
Thanks, Dr. Akhil. In fact, as we spoke, thanks to technology, my laptop, I don't know what happened, and I seamlessly changed to my phone. So we've learned a lot of things which we can do without disrupting a lot of other people around. So thanks for your input. My next question is to Pratyush. Pratyush, there's a huge shift in the workplace today where we live in, right? There's a conscious shift towards workplace, home being the new workplace. And I know we spoke about it, you've done some work towards that side. So if you would like to share your experience, that would be great.
Thank you so much, Aditya, for an incredible question. I just want to say thank you for inviting me for a digital conversation with such an incredible set of people. So thank you for that. The way Aditya, I would look at it is into three different phases. One is a pre-pandemic. Second is what happened during pandemic, and potentially what is going to be the post-pandemic situation. So if you look into in the pre-pandemic era, so I've been in the technology industry from the last 21 years. And what I've seen is some of the organizations, particularly in the West, offered work from home. So there was already a concept home office, partly or fully, though it wasn't that structured and popular. Most of the non-customer and non-manufacturing roles, or where the human physical presence wasn't required, were essentially allowed to work from home. And the industry, the software or the IT industry, particularly in India, also experienced the same, which is there was an option of work from home. At least I've seen 2 days a week, particularly the product industry, where you have relatively a mature talent, and upward of 6 to 7 years. So that was the situation pre-pandemic. Now, what happened during the pandemic time is, before I move to that, I used to travel 4 days in a week to different cities to meet different customers, to solve their problem, to have their conversation. And some of the largest automobile customers or some of the largest retailers were not comfortable with the concept of virtual collaboration. So that was, there was a scene wherein, yeah, some of us working from home, some of the industry, the IT, that did not require physical presence were allowed to work from home. But some of the customers were having a very, I would say, a fixed mindset that virtually you cannot execute a large transformation project. Come pandemic, we saw a tremendous shift in the mindset. The first thing is a shift in the mindset from some of the top leaders in the industry, such as an automobile, such as retail industry, such as manufacturing industry and others. They're willing to adopt the idea of work from home. So they not only deployed the technology in their own office, in their own office and to the home of their employees to accelerate that process, but also started running some of their a large digital transformation from home, which is in the last 15 months, we have delivered some of the largest digital transformation projects virtually. So what they've realized is, yes, it is possible. However, it wasn't easy. So if you look into it, the first, when we started the entire, virtual collaboration or work from home first, we had a different sort of challenge. There wasn't a reliable internet connection across all. There wasn't a power backup. So if the power goes off, we would say hello, hello, and then we won't get a response. And then there wasn't a comfortable scenario. So no one actually had the established home office. People were taking calls from anywhere, which would look a little awkward. So all of that was a change acceleration process or a change management process, which took around 5 to 6 months to get to a situation where you have established work office or work from home establishment. Then the scenario started coming in wherein we started hearing a lot of one-liner. Hey, sorry, I was on mute. Can you repeat again? Hey, my internet went down. We started seeing, hey, we were on an hour meeting, but did not get anything out of it. So then we went into a second phase, which is how do we bring discipline and structure to our virtual operating model? So now what I see is we have matured, And what potentially happens, what's potentially going to happen is we saw a lot of CEOs, the large CEOs, I mean, TCS, one of the largest software company, not recently, but around 7 to 8 months, announced that 75% of its staff is going to work from home 2025, and they're actually creating the infrastructure to do so. My own CEO, he started the concept of work from anywhere. And this is what we are also seeing. We are also seeing that people are taking vacation, going to Goa, and then from there working from home. We are seeing that people are going to tier 2 cities and started working from home. They're beginning to think, hey, why do I need to be in a Bangalore, spend so much on rental space? Why can't I go to a tier 2 city where there is a good internet connectivity and then start operating from there? The third thing that we're saying is people who weren't comfortable working from home then have now become comfortable working from home. So high percentage of employees feel that if they have a right environment and tool along with the right monitoring, then essentially they would like to work from home. And with the idea of the virtual on-demand places also coming in, if there is a requirement, like like I heard, hey, physical presence, physical interaction cannot be replaced completely. So there is an opportunity for on-demand work, wherein group of employees can go to on-demand workplaces and interact, etc. So in summary, I would say that the work from anywhere is gonna stay. Uh, Large corporations have started invested heavily in digital technologies to enable its employees to work from anywhere. Third thing is we are beginning to see a virtual etiquettes that's going to help improve the productivity and collaboration among the employees. And the downside of it is you're available. So for example, you can't tell your boss, hey, I need to go out and do something because you are at home, and then your boss has a liberty to call you at any point of time. So I think the downside is it's certainly creating a lot of mental stress. And what we've seen in the organizations is people are mentally exhausted, and there are certain initiatives to kind of bring them back, give them well-being, wellness off. Like for example, this Friday we had a wellness off in my function. I did to all my team members saying, hey, there is a wellness off. You don't work on Friday. Be away from technology. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you, Aditya.
Thanks, Pratyush, and it always makes sense to correlate when you've implemented quite a few things. So thanks for your inputs. Coming back to Preeti, as we move towards a world which is a little more online, the ability to convey your message plays an important part. So you want to maybe throw some light on the on the art of storytelling, which is becoming very important when it comes to marketing.
Thank you, Adi. And I think a very important question, because what I think first and foremost, storytelling entails us to see businesses as humans, which at the end of the day, all of us are. Initially, in the days of traditional marketing and all the rest of it, we were actually not talking to any humanized version of people behind those brands. But I think with the advent of this new and creative input of storytelling, either totally in place of or supplanting the traditional marketing channels, gives a massive opportunity for brands to humanize themselves. And when I say that, first and foremost, let us try and understand what storytelling is all about, So essentially, it connects the brands with their consumers, building loyalty. What it does, it narrates the facts into easily digestible bits that connect with the audience at an emotional level. And using this technique, you can touch the very core of your target audience, which no PowerPoint presentation, no data set, nothing for that matter connects. Because at the end of the day, as humans, we are all emotional and social in nature. At the same time, what it also does is builds a community around your product or service. And I think that is extremely important, because the end game is to be able to reach your target audience effectively. And with these days of direct to consumer brands and so many disruptions happening in this space, community of social commerce is also one of the way forward. So it is extremely important to keep your target audience highly engaged through the art of storytelling, building a community around your products and services, so that they in turn become your brand ambassadors and your word of mouth starts to sort of happen. Also, at the same time, when it is others talking about your brand, products, or service, it is more effective rather than us ourselves climbing on top of Mount Everest and tooting our own horn. That's not really going to cut it that much, versus when our own sort of consumers, stakeholders, partners, vendors, investors are talking about us. So I think in that respect, storytelling is actually something that has really happened in the last 5 years, but then a good boon for all the brands and everybody else out there. I would also like to sort of stress some of the important elements of storytelling when used for marketing. So it is important to be, first of all, authentic and consistent. Important to know your audience, communicate effectively, build your character around, and extremely important to connect to your community. As a community creator and builder, I cannot express or sort of emphasize enough about the importance of community building around whatever you say or do. So, Adi, I think again, added to that fact, new job opportunities, new job creations, new sort of positions coming up wherein you have a chief storyteller in brands and products and services. Totally unheard of jobs, say maybe 5 years back, but now you have these new sort of derivatives coming out from all of this. So all in all, Adi, I'm pretty upbeat and looking forward to what this element of marketing entails. So many disruptions already in case in point, but let me highlight a very good friend, and I think everybody here would know him, Manu Kumar Jain. When you think of Manu Kumar Jain, Xiaomi India, what do you think of him? It's a one-man marketing department, honestly. Zero budget marketing, but he's there. He's there talking about his story of Xiaomi. He's there talking about how he's been through the ups and downs of, the last 15 months. And what has it done? It's ended up connecting his brand to his audience, and so much so that he probably doesn't need a marketing department. So with that example, I think extremely important to try and experiment in this sphere of marketing, Adi. Keep on sort of deriving at your mojo, keep on engaging and enhancing your community, and thereby sort of adding value to everybody's life, whether it is your end customers, stakeholders, partners, and all the rest of it. With that, back to you, Adi. Thank you.
Thanks, Preeti. I mean, those are very valuable inputs, and I think so. The art of storytelling is very important to, irrespective of whatever you do. It's very important that you are in a position to convey a message across to whoever wants to listen, right? That's how people develop stories, but the way you put it across is the most important part, and how consistently you bring it across. Thanks, Preeti. So coming to Dr. Akhil, these shifts which we are all talking about, Dr. Akhil, do you think these are temporary shift, or will these be more permanent shift as you speak, as we look into the future from a consumer standpoint?
So these shifts, Aditya, these will be partly permanent, partly these are temporary. So for example, where there is a need of a personal connect, And we can't generalize. Each organization is different. The expectation from workforce is different. So these kind of situations uh, do make us think that perhaps things will change forever. I don't think so. Like I mentioned in my previous, thought was that uh, I would definitely love to go back to work. Uh, Provided everything is safe and everything is, we are off mask with an 8 p.m. announcement by the PM. Uh, but definitely, for example, this online shopping and wherever the online businesses are able to connect the consumer, those things are definitely changes for the real. For example, you know, COVID made us, some of us, a little apprehensive about sharing paper money. So digital transactions perhaps is a shift, a very real shift for the future. But that too, I would say the percentage of that shift maybe still be very nominal compared to the entire 1.3 billion people that we have in this country. But whether digital transaction will overtake, of course it will overtake. For sure it will overtake. For example, I have been a member of Citibank credit cards in 1991, and some of you would not have been born by that time. But I have been using, the credit card since 1991, and successfully so. I never used, paper money. I never had any paper money in my wallet. Perhaps my family doesn't trust me for that. But I have been, using a credit card for a very, very long time. And situations like these will completely transform the way this Paytm is something like what we used to call for Xerox. Paytm kar denge is what has happened, and this is a very strong marketing change that we have. Perhaps it will get into someday in an Oxford dictionary also. What is Paytm means online payment of money. So things like these will definitely make a very, very deep impact. For example, we have to buy medicines. Artificial intelligence has played such an important role in the development of the new technologies that not only the customer has more choice, it is a better price that we receive. So all these things will completely change the dynamics. One thing which is also very important, which I was, reading very, very recently, uh, that there is a very deliberate shift in the minds of the organizations to reach the consumer directly. Whether it is because of artificial intelligence, because now people know that perhaps the walk-in customer will not be there, and it will not be there for a considerable period of time. For example, we wanted to buy mattresses for home. So my wife reacted that, no, I don't want to buy it online. I want to go to the store, but today we can't go. So that purchase decision may have been deferred because buying a mattress, we wanted to have a feel of the mattress before we make that decision to buy it. But for other things like, there may be a very direct impact on how you buy it. But the companies, for example, we just saw, Mercedes Benz saying that, now you don't have to come to our retail outlet. Just imagine having spent crores of money in setting up a retail outlet. Now the shift of the Mercedes Benz is that it will be an online experience. Um, how would businesses will change in the future is for anybody to imagine. But I definitely would believe that if I have to buy a car, which is a luxury car like a Mercedes Benz, how can I experience the car online? Or how, because I can give you my own experience. I wanted to buy a car, and I wanted to buy one model of a car, and when I went to the showroom, I ended up buying a higher version of the car. So that was because of the salesmanship of the person in the store, that the person was able to give me a better discount, better incentive for me to decide for a higher version of the car. So that thing may not happen through an online medium. So those kind of things will still, we will have to go to the store and feel for it and then buy. And that goes for almost anything. You want to buy a Rolex, you want to buy a Cartier, you want to buy any luxury thing. Those kind of things perhaps will not change. And if they will change, you know, it will be very difficult to buy a customer who only wants to buy an S-Class. So S-Class, so which S-Class? S-Class, higher version, lower version, you know, there may be so many options. So, and believe me, you know, if we see that the Maybachs, you know, which is one of the most luxury car offered by Mercedes-Benz, have been a complete sold out in India with advance orders in times of COVID. You know, I don't think anybody would have gone online to see a Maybach and then bought everything. I think those kind of customers who are so rich to be able to buy, for example, if Virat Kohli wants to buy a Lamborghini, I don't think Virat Kohli will buy it online. Virat Kohli will only go to the store and buy a Lamborghini. So things like these, it's a mix of what will change and what will not change. Wherever you are a customer and you want to feel the product or you want to experience the product, that real experience will not come through online medium. If it is a very commoditized thing, you want to buy a toothpaste, you want to buy a Colgate, perhaps online without application of mind. But the moment you have to think about a product, experience it, and then buy it, perhaps those kind of experiences will never change. And those kind of habits will never change. You will still go out, experience it, and then buy it. So, Aditya, these are my opening thoughts on this topic.
Thank you. Thank you, Akhil. Pretty relevant, and I think that's the direction people will do. We're moving in a very different era. As you said, very different era as we speak. So, Pratyush, coming to you. So, the best example is today we are sitting in a virtual world, right? This is the next big thing which you think, Pratyush, because the webinar and the adoption of technology is becoming much more faster. At least it's preceded us to a couple of years. So do you see impact of this in the future?
Thank you, Aditya. So the answer is yes. And you would have seen some of the large edutech companies being valued over a multi-billion dollar. The reason is what we're seeing it now. So for example, I'll just give you my personal opinion and also an experience. I'm also a continuous learner, and I'm doing from one of the IIMs the advanced strategy course. It's an year course, and it required us to visit the campus, I think, once a quarter for a week. We're doing all of that virtually. I could have never imagined that we could finish the entire in-campus module virtually. Number two, what I'm also seeing is I'm also a big believer of continuous learning. I've also signed up for a couple of programs, one by Daniel Goleman, and I could never imagine pre-pandemic that I would have an access that I could afford to actually learn directly from Dr. Goleman. Similarly, I also did a very short-term program for Stanford on design thinking. It was being offered in some shape or form, but it wasn't offered in a way it had been offered. And I could never imagine that I could have a session with Nobel laureate, right? So all of these are possibilities. While Dr. Akhil may have a different opinion, but as a technologist, what we're trying to build right now is build the entire set of virtual dealership. It's already happening in some shape or form in the Europe and the US, wherein you can through the technology such as virtual augmented reality and virtual reality, you can experience the entire Maybach the way you would physically experience. Now there could be a technology gap. You may not actually feel the leather the way you would, physically feel it, but essentially you can get the entire sense. And those are being built right now, and some of the countries or the market have implemented it. For example, just to give you an example, you know, why I think that in future virtual dealers is a reality. So for example, forget about outside, even in India, without taking name, couple of large automobiles are actually thinking on the same concept and hugely investing into it. So what they're trying to do is bases your profile and portfolio once you get onto its portal, right? They already have an understanding of you as a consumer. Basis those understanding, they would start recommending you, and basis the action that you take on their website, they're going to give you further recommendation. They would fine tune the recommendation. And in case if you have, for example, let's say you go for X version of car, but somewhere, you want something else. So they can actually recommend you, hey, this is what X plus one look like, X plus one version look like. So I see there is a possibility, and that's the reality. And technology such as augmented reality, virtual reality, voice technology is going to actually enable the consumer experience in the new virtual world, which is predominantly a technology led. Thank you, Aditya.
Thanks, Pratyush. See, we are, as you said, I think so. It will only help us, enable us to take decisions, right? The future is hybrid, to be put it in the right way, and we will see how it pans out. I wish everybody had a crystal ball and we could look into the future. And these are all intelligent assumptions and research reports which we all been using and reading. Dr. Akhil, with all these changes, all these things coming across, what does it mean for all the brands? What direction will they be taking?
So brands will have. So there is no one size fit all approach. For example, in today's economic times, you will read that the top Indian brands for apparel, whether it's Ritu Kumar, whether it's Sabyasachi, or whether it's others, have given away a substantial equity stake in their ventures. For example, somebody has given away 31%, somebody has given us away 35% to some of the world best known private equity ventures. And the common line that you read there is scaling up of operations. So who could have imagined that somebody like a Ritu Kumar, who's so much well established as a entrepreneur and a fashion name from India, would want to give away, and this is common, for all her counterparts in the fashion industry. This is a very interesting article I saw today. But then that is one part. I think the Indian brands, may see that kind of a change. For example, we did see what Walmart did. So Walmart, world's largest retailer, always wanted to be a very solid promoter of retail stores, but they did a 16 billion investment in Flipkart, and that is perhaps their largest investment in an e-commerce portal. So even the big corporations are looking at the way how to make their businesses more resilient, more sustainable, is something which is for real. For example, the aviation industry, completely trying to transform itself completely. For example, we saw SpiceJet in India. So during the turmoil, during this COVID crisis, when there was a restriction on the passenger travel, so they went into cargo, and they completely tried to change the business. And cargo business definitely helped them to shore up their margins. So different companies will have different strategies. Just look at what Reliance Industries did to their Geo platform. One of the largest FDIs in this country during the peak of pandemic came into Reliance Geo platform. So it's very interesting to see, how businesses are adapting themselves, how the brands are changing themselves, how the big businesses are. So we have seen Facebook investing into GeoMart in that kind of a portal. So I think it is being analyzed like never before that the M&A opportunities, the private equity opportunities, the kind of valuations, the Paytm is now saying they want to come up with a 1.5 billion IPO. So things like these are something, which are happening during the worst economic phase the world has ever seen. And this is not only India. If you see worldwide, there have been so many examples. We have seen Sears shutting down shop, the global chain shutting down shop. But the fortunes of people like Elon Musk, like people like Jeff Bezos, they are all-time high. So it's a very, very peculiar situation. Smart businessmen are still able to generate a lot of cash flow. They are able to reap a lot of benefit despite these turbulent times. And what amazes me is, when you watch television today, supposingly you are watching an Indian-New Zealand cricket match, most of the advertisements that you see today, which are, are from startups. So something like a cred, I must admit that at least I do not know till now what does cred do. I can't very solidly say this is what cred does, but the kind of advertisements I see of cred, and with film stars of today and of yesterday, coming onto their advertisement portals is amazing. But that is maybe only happening because companies like cred are able to tell their story that even in today's times they are able to scale up their businesses and so successfully. That is what is very, very amazing to me, that how people are able to build a business, think about an idea. For example, Baiju, online learning portal, one of the most successful Indian unicorns, I would say, lately, has been able to do so much despite, like Mukesh Ambani, I would say, like Mukesh Ambani did for JioSmart, Baiju did the same, and so did Paytm. So look at these people who are thinking very, very differently and taking the advantage of the current situation. Either through, it is the common thread that I see is a digital platform, a technology is something what connects to the investors and to the people. That if this is artificial intelligence technology based solution, perhaps this is a business to invest in. Whether it may be for a GeoMart, whether it may be for a payment portal, whether it's for anything. That is the common thread that I see. And that is what I see, even for the brands, unless they are able to, for example, for a company like us, which is more than 100 years old, we have seen this transformation all through. How will a company like Boeing survive unless you are able to continuously transform the technology? So we have come up with two lately autonomous systems. One is it can refuel the plane when it's airborne. For a fighter, airborne, that is a technology we launched during COVID crisis. And the second, autonomous system was developed by our Australian company, Boeing Australia, which has a mission capability. So now you have a big drone which can carry arms and ammunitions without a pilot. So those kind of things, those kind of innovations need to be there for every company, not only the brands, to be able to survive. And if you are not able to adapt to the artificial intelligence solutions, to the technology solutions, these businesses will not be able to survive in future. For example, I just was reading today that the the threat is real, and by 2022, it may start impacting a lot of technical jobs in this country. So the changes perhaps are happening faster than what we are thinking. And these kind of things are completely unheard of. So there may be some questions. If robots are coming, what happened to our engineers? Our engineers will scale up. So when I was in college, we never had computers in college. We never had computer in schools. But then we were able to adapt to the computerization and the computer system. So the engineers of today will still be able to adapt to the growing needs and the growing demands of high skill requirements that the countries and the opportunities will come up in future. So the change is for real and for us to adapt, and we have to embrace this change.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Akhil. And those are pretty valuable inputs. When you were speaking about Jio, I think they did a very smart thing of making sure that they get investment from a lot of other companies at the same time. So, that way it's a very strategic move which Mukesh Ambani has done. And I completely agree for a fact that, with a lot of funding, if you hear a lot of startups are getting Series A funding, right, which is actually a good sign from an Indian economy standpoint. You're moving in the right direction, and it's all about acceptance to technology. COVID has preponed it by a couple of years. I think there's something called Martek's law, which basically says the rate of change of technology is very fast, and organizations is somewhere here. This gap is still there's still a gap, right? It's by virtue of people who are making decisions. Is also the rate of technology is also very fragmented, right? You don't have a one system tool, right? And you and Pratyush will understand it even better, right? Even look at the HR systems, right? One doesn't talk to another, and you'll have another one to somewhere else. So it's moving at that fast pace. Great inputs. As we move further, and this is my last question, and this is for Preeti and Pratyush. So we are now moving into a world where we have a lot of information in front of us, and I'll not be surprised that once we get into this hybrid era, when you go shopping, and I'm sure some of us already do, when we walk into a shop, we try the shoe maybe, and then look at the price of it online, and then say, hey, I think I rather buy it online. So we are moving into a phase of economizing, also seeing which the best possible option. So question to both of you, are you seeing that as one of the big trends of the future? So maybe Preeti can go, and then maybe Pratyush, you can add on.
Sure, thank you. And before that, very quickly, I'd like to add to what Akhil had said. With your permission, please, Adi. Just 2 points. Thank you. Just 2 points. I think with the digital natives that are the Generation Z, all of them are digital natives. So brands are also seeing an emergence of direct to consumer brands, which means all the middlemen are being cut off. All the unnecessary expenses are being cut off. You do not maintain a building, people, utilities, and so on and so forth, which directly eats into your profit margin at the end of the day, which means you are able to offer better prices to the end consumer and still maintain those profit margins. So that is another thing that is happening with the brands. One more thing that is happening with the brands is consolidation time. And I will take the example of Byju's right here. Akhil, you did mention Byju's in your narrative there. Look at the consolidation, or rather investment or taking over of Akash Institute. So what Byju's have done intelligently is they are 100% internet entity. With the buyout of Akash, they've seamlessly gone and made themselves available both online and in the physical environment, because straight away they have 200 centers spread all over the country. So at the times like these, when it is impossible for us to go into physical centers, we will access them online, and God permit, and everything happening good in future, we'll walk into a physical center as well. So the point is that there are many more touch points that are happening through the brands. And I think last but not the least, with the brands, what is happening is also they are able to touch their end consumers in a more direct and human way, and that is adding to their trajectory and growth journey. So that was a couple of points which I thought I should add to what Akhil had said, because it was, literally jumping in my head. But coming back to your question, Adi, in terms of our Indians being more mindful of spending, I think, in my view, the track that I am going to take is I think a lot of rationalization is coming into the spend as of now. I wouldn't say that we are essentially economizing, because what is happening, is essentially the resource or the financial resource allocations, they're probably being channeled into sort of more useful stuff, which is more relevant to today's day and age. So whether it is health, whether it is education, whether it is any other stream which is directly proportional to our well-being and our sort of upkeep in this digital environment, I think we're channelizing our financial resources more towards that rather than being mindful. What is also happening, I think, is Indians are sort of, and I'm talking only from our perspective, I'm not talking from a global perspective at this point in time. We as Indians are also sort of planning our shopping rather than being impulsive buyers. And quoting from what Adi had to say earlier, we're doing our research. Initially, if we were walking into physical stores, there is so much of bombardment of physical sort of products right there in front of us. So we get carried away and impulsive, and we pick up all kinds of things. But with the advent of online shopping, e-commerce, and all the rest of it, I think we as a race are becoming more intentional rather than impulsive when we are going out buying stuff. Also, another thing that is happening is our shopping baskets are changing drastically. So earlier, when it used to be all kinds of unhealthy stuff, I think consciously we are spending more on nutrition, on good stuff, and on stuff that is taking care of our physical, mental, and all of those health. So whether it is greens, whether it is nuts, whether it is good dairy, our basket product mix is actually changing. And what I also feel is that, with the sort of restrictions on travel and all the rest of it, now all the money that is being saved from all those travels, on the flights and things like that, we are sort of channelizing that money and spending it onto our fitness. So we are signing up for more gym subscriptions. We are signing up for more mental wellness courses. We are doing so many things that are directly responsible for our mental, physical, emotional well-being. And one more thing which I think is, I think it's a fallacy when we say that we are actually economizing. I think we are not. If you just look at the data from last year's property spends, almost 2,500 crores was spent by people in buying up properties. And in my observation, the trend that is coming out is people are opting for more sort of bigger homes, which is full of amenities. So they have gyms, they have pools, and all of that within the house environment, because it is a home office, so you have to have that segregated area for home, which is, say, maybe with a gym and a pool, and that segregated area as your home office. So that is the reason why people are going out and buying bigger properties, maybe on the outskirts, which is then thereby sort of resulting in decentralization of the so-called downtown as you have it in the West. But, in our Indian context, I think the central commercial centers, they are getting more sort of decongested and so on and so forth. So, in my sort of view, again, to come back to say that I don't think we are economizing, we are just going for our financial resource allocation into different things that make our life more productive, more happy. And last but not the least, being a traveler, I would like to bring in the auto segment also into it, so no more planes, people are scared of going on trains. What is happening? We are going for bigger cars, we are going for all-terrain vehicles, we are going for SUVs, wherein we can pack the family, go on road trips, which was so prevalent in the West, but not that much done in our country, So we don't mind now driving up from anything from 2 hours to 12 hours actually to go for that holiday. So Addy, all said and done, I think it is just we are shifting the focus, but I don't think we are sort of bringing down on our expenses. I think we are spending it more consciously and mindfully. With that, I think I'll pass on the baton to Pratyush to add his bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Preeti. Incredible insights. I still remember a day during the first lockdown wherein we did not know how long the lockdown be and to what level of severity. And then I started realizing, hey, this is a tough time. People begin to economize. So the first thing that we did is, hey, we can only store so much. How do we consume less so that it can last longer? So that was my first taste of economizing. The other thing that, now, there is a business, but then I have beginning to believe that there is a conscious way of running the business, which is, for example, our own my own organization. We have launched a plantation of $1 trillion trees. Sorry, trillion trees. And what is happening is, because of the impact of some of the businesses across different economies, we are beginning to realize that, hey, unless we shift from a wasteful living or accumulating living to a conscious living, what kind of planet are we leaving for our kids and the grandkids? So what, according to me, what I would simply say, shifting towards a conscious buying, which means that I'm not accumulating. I'm only buying what is necessary and important to me. Second thing is a conscious living, which means that I'm actually caring for the environment where we are living in. I'm planting my tree. I'm becoming more compassionate being. The third thing is also the conscious eating, which is, one of the things that you would see is, lot of, the entire industry around immunity building has begun to be created. I don't think anyone was, at least at my age, would be eating chompras, but now I'm eating, and I'm essentially saying to my kids, hey, start having this because these are important. We don't know. Today is a coronavirus. What can be the next version of the virus? See, the single virus has shaken the entire world. So it's because of the what we had eaten, right? If I go back to, again, it's a controversial, so I won't get in. So what I'm also seeing is people are turning to a lot, conscious eating. In my friend circle, what I've seen is people have shifted from non-vegetarian to vegetarian, or people are turning vegan because that's more healthier. Research has said that. And the last thing is, getting back to the essentials. I don't need to buy the new version of phone or the new version of car every time it comes in. I would essentially repurpose my money to something which can be beneficial to the planet, beneficial to the people who are not capable or who are not unable to do so many things. So this is what I wanted to throw in. Thanks, Aditya and Preeti.
Um, Thank you very much. You know, these are these are great inputs from everybody in the panel. What we wanted also was that it should not become like a monologue. So we thought we'll keep at least the last 15 minutes for question and answers. If people have questions which are relevant to the topic. Also, the ask is also, you need not, you might have other questions which may not be immediately relevant, but if we can answer those, we are more than happy to do that. So I saw some questions. I'm sorry, but I'm using the phone. If somebody can read out those questions, that would be helpful. Or Anubhav,
Yes,
we can have,
yeah.
if we can have the person who has the question maybe speak out the question, that'll be even better.
Sure, Aditya. So first of all, I would like to thank all the panelists for giving so much insights about the topic, and also Aditya for beautifully moderating the session. So now we can start the question and answer session with the audience. And I guess we have received a few questions for now. So Shubham Berar, you want to go ahead with your question?
Hello.
Yeah, Shubham, go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you all the panelists. That was a wonderful and insightful session. So my question is like in a post-pandemic scenario, it is highly possible to see a pullback for the slightly overhyped sectors. What I feel like edtech and e-commerce. So what should be a correct methodology for them to maintain the sustainability of their business and to get adapted to the transition, especially for the startups?
We can jump in, or I can jump in at the end. Preeti, Pratyush, Akhil.
Pratyush, go ahead. I think you want to say something. Go ahead. I'll chip in right just before Adi, please.
Yeah, so for example, I think you know, I'll go industry by industry. So you're absolutely right. So for example, what's happening in the current economic landscape is some of these companies are being valued or have seen a hyper growth. Some of the industries such as hospitality, etc., have seen a very challenging time, while the others have seen a lot of a different series of funding coming in, etc. And in particular to the e-commerce, so I think, certainly the pandemic has created a platform for the e-commerce company to grow tremendously, or the companies to shift to e-commerce. What I'm beginning to believe, that trend is continue to grow. What may happen is, over the next 4 to 5 years, we may see a consolidation. Like you're seeing a consolidation in the edtech industry. You're seeing Baiju's acquisition of Junior Hat. You're seeing a Baiju's acquisition of Akash. So you're seeing this hybrid model built in, wherein the companies would like to be ready for any kind of model. If physical, we have Akash. If digital, we have so many things. And if it's the mix of both, then we have the hybrid model. So I think that's what I'm seeing. That's what I would foresee, particularly in the e-commerce space. And second, I wanted to also mention in the fintech space. So fintech space is again seeing a lot of traction. And I think this traction was not seen particularly from the time of pandemic, but also if you would remember when our Prime Minister Modi at 8 p.m. announced, that 500 and 1,000, demonetization. So I think what I'm seeing, that there is a huge traction in the digital space since then. Okay, and it's going to continue. And what is going to happen is, all in the entire middleman, the entire middle ecosystem, if I can use the word, is going to be replaced by technology. And that will continue to grow. And what I'm also seeing is, I was recently in a conversation with a couple of my friends who have started a fintech company. They are seeing a huge traction in terms of, let's say, hey, now we have a different forms of payment. We have a different form of digital payment, but these are also leading to a lot of cyber security lapses or challenge. So can we create a technology which is going to prevent it? So I think we create a base technology, and then we create a technology on top of the technology to make it as efficient as it can get. So in summary, I continue to see a traction along with the consolidation. Yeah.
Thank you. Very quickly, just one point from my own experience of talking to thousands of startups every month by virtue of being a mentor at India-wide incubators and accelerators. What I am also seeing is a total new breed of entrepreneurs who are building new businesses with just one view, and that is to be acquired by any of these sector leaders in different domains. Like, if we speak about Baiju's in the edtech domain and the likes of others in all separate domains. This last 15 years has also been an opportunity for a lot of experimentation for these kind of startups to quickly come, get their strategy together, go and do a product market fit, go and do a go-to-market strategy, and then even get traction because everybody is a captive audience, So I'm seeing this trend also where a completely new breed is coming out and starting ventures, which will be completely takeoverable, if that is a word. That is not, but I'll coin it. So back to you, Addy. Thank you. That was my input.
Thanks. Dr. Akhil, you have anything to add?
No, I just want to make an observation that, what is the biggest change I would like to see? Using the same digital and the biggest change I would like to see is for our 70% population, which is the farming community. So although there has been a major reform in terms of the laws, although these are debatable, but some people debate that whether or not they should happen. But I think the biggest startup I would like to see is somebody can provide a digital solution to farmers. Because if we are able to and get the better rates for farmers through use of technology, perhaps that would be the biggest thing we can do for the economy of our country. Because we should still remember that 70% of our population lives in villages. And that is where a reform I would like to see from this community, from the startup community, if you can partner with government, do something for these farmers so that they get a better realization for their produce. That is the biggest thing.
Thanks, Akhil. I'll just put it into 3 points, which says there would be continuing growth in the online marketplace. I think that we'll continue to evolve and learn. We'll continue to see how the consumer behaves, because the consumer also does not know what the future looks like. There'll be more emphasis on faster delivery. End of the day, I think the impatience level sometimes is going up for people, and they would want to get things delivered faster. And I think so. All the panelists spoke about more diversified supply chain, right? Not only targeting one set of consumers, but across the consumers, of saying that how do we work together across. And I think so. Dr. Akhil brought it up very relevantly. Is majority of the people are not only sitting in big cities, right? You have people across other cities where they would want a lot of the things which can happen. And you said, I think this is a good opportunity for people to invest in a lot of other areas, which would help the rural part of India go very extensively. And above.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Aditya. So next question is from Abhishek K. Abhishek, go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for bringing this topic to us on the Bow and placement team. My question is, due to online, my expectation was actually real estate industry would have heavily affected, but some companies like Square Yards, which uses the concept of online real estate, using virtual shows, personal online meets with customers, which used to get a profit of 90 crores. Now during COVID, they are getting around 140 crores. So can you throw some lights on this change in consumer behavior?
Okay. Anybody wants to pick up this?
So on the you mean on the real estate side, right?
Yes, sir. Some companies like Square Yards and all, they are using online real estates, like without even consumers seeing the places they are ready to buy. But my father or relative won't buy such real estate, but still they're getting a profit around. They're getting a profit around 20 to 25%. So how it got increased? That was my question.
So I think what has helped, I think companies like housing.com, 99 acres and others, I think they have been very successful in terms of bringing the market for buy and sell. Even now you see something like a Sotheby, which is an international brand on auctions. They have also very successfully implemented um, e-commerce platform in India for some very, very high-end properties. So I think what my perception is that there is a very direct shift on providing solution to customer, even on the housing side, not only for rental, but also for buy and sell. But I don't think, so when you see the statistics, so although from an online portal, you may see a lot of availability, I am very, very surprised, the quantum of products which are being offered for a place like Johor Bagh in Delhi, or a high-end upscale market in Delhi or Bombay. So one thing is also it gives you an impression that everything is not right. Perhaps people who have been holding on these properties are trying to sell them in a very low market, because what we see today is that real estate has suffered has suffered in last 4 or 5 years badly. First, it was the economy was showing a downslide, and then we have seen this COVID impact where the construction activity has completely come down to a standstill, especially in the last 2 years. So although the platforms have been able to generate that demand, but I do see a problem that there is a lot of availability of stock, the real estate, inventory in leading cities of India. So that is where I see a little disconnect. So although the social platforms may be doing well, but whether these real estate companies are doing well or not, that's a big question mark for me.
Thanks, Akhil. I hope Abhishek that answered your question. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you, Aditya. So, yeah, Preeti, you want to add?
Yeah, sorry. I quickly
Sure.
just wanted to add very specifically to his, some numbers, what he pointed out from 90 crores to 140 crores. I think the only thing that I would like to say, and not commenting on the real estate side of it, I'm just commenting on to the adaptability side of the target market, of the market. People are more receptive to buying stuff online now, and with the uncertainties in the last 15 months, they are looking at all options of securing the money that is lying idle, not doing anything. I think that is also one of the contributing factors of that initial 90 crores of the previous year jumping straight off to 140 crores. So all I'm trying to say is that it is opening up of the mindset as well, which is contributing to these numbers, which have gone more than sort of 100x, in the corresponding year before. That's all. Back to you, Anubhav.
Just one point, if I may add, see what I'm also seeing, I don't know, but in particular about square yards, but some of these some of these real estate who are actually building the platforms and trying to sell onto the platform are using a lot of data analytics to drive the decision. So that is certainly driving the efficiency and also ability to sell faster. Second thing is their reach has increased. So for example, let's say if you were to do it only in India, physically, you cannot expect people from US to travel to India to see a real estate in India. But now with this digital platform, they're able to make that decision, leveraging the virtual, a virtual experience, virtual reality experience to be able to make those decisions. So some of these NRIs are making a huge investment. Okay. Third element is, if let's say if in a family, two people are working. Earlier, they were staying in a two-bedroom apartment. Now you have your kids also, digital school or virtual school, right? So you need more places. So essentially, people are moving to a bigger property. Third. Fourth element is also look at this entire management of the rental space. So which is like what is in the West. You actually outsource the entire thing to a property management, and they do all of it, all of that digitally through consolidating requests and through different platforms. So there are stream of things which are optimizing the entire process, and that is why the companies who are able to leverage the data to create insight are growing.
Thank you, Pratyush. I guess that answered the question. And next question is from Namrata. Namrata, go ahead. Namrata, you there? Okay, I guess there is some connectivity issue. Next question is from Derek. Derek, go ahead.
Yeah, so can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, Derek.
Yeah, so my question is, we were talking about storytelling, right? In the section.
Derek, sorry, your voice is not clear.
Hello, can you hear me?
Is it clear, Aditya? Derek, you can put your question in chat.
Yeah, put it on chat, Derek, if you can.
Sure.
Next question. Meanwhile, we can take question from Nishan.
Yeah, thank you, Anubhav. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, panelists, for such a wonderful panel discussion. So my question is that we discussed that there has been a huge reverse migration from tier 1 cities to tier 2 and tier 3 cities of the urban population due to the work from home scenario. So how do you think the consumer behavior and the brand behavior of tier 2 cities and the rural cities will change? Do you think people there would get more ambitious seeing this urban population, or do you think they will get more conservative?
Could I quickly take that to begin with, please? Since I am from a tier 2 city, Jabalpur in Madhya Pradesh, and I have absolutely been seeing a lot of traction, irrespective of reverse migration or not, to answer and quickly address your question. One data point from Amazon. Amazon did a study last year, a study of how the consumers were behaving and what was going on, and so on and so forth. So what they found was, in most of the e-ordering onto their portal, quite a substantial orders were being placed already from the tier 2, 3, 4 Bharat. So it is a disclaimer, and it is basically, I would say, a fact that has not come to light much. We are seeing more and more of this being talked about now, because all the agencies and everything else have also started looking tier 2, 3, 4 Bharat as an additional market, the next 1 billion, the next 500 million, whatever, But folks, students here are and have always been ambitious. It is just basically the opportunities and the equitable sort of whether it is mentoring, whether it is knowledge share, whatever, those were not proportionate to what they needed here, and they could not physically move to a bigger city because obviously, the economies at scale and so on and so forth, they couldn't do that. But with the opening up of the disruption in this entire digital space, what has happened is we've taken up all the knowledge and all those opportunities to these people in these areas. So a lot of things are being also sort of started here in this part of the country, the tier 2, 3, 4 Bharat. I will give you a couple of examples from my own state, Madhya Pradesh. So you have things like Shop Kirana, which is a big disruptor into the grocery space, and that too only digitalizing the small Kirana shops, the non-branded small corner shops. So there is one instance of that. Then there is something called an appointee, which is a huge disruption in the HR hiring interviewing space. Again, both of these instances, these startups have existed pre-pandemic. So the point that I'm trying to make is that it is not about suddenly everybody will get very ambitious and the market will open out here. The point is that everybody has now started looking inward, and so these stories are coming more into light, and this will be so because the quality of life, the expense that is taken to live in a small city, and you can still work your business globally. Those are some of the trade-offs that people are looking at, and that is why all this reverse migration is happening, because people are suddenly realizing, hey, I don't need this fancy building sitting in a UB tower in Bangalore. I can equally sit in a incubation center, Jabalpur incubation center in Jabalpur, and my clients could be in US, in Europe, in Australia, wherever else. So it is just the question of making those opportunities available equitably, and the inclusion that should happen, which is beginning to happen now. And with that, I think you'll hear more success stories from Tier 2, 3, 4 Bharat and aim into that. Forum is open. Back to you, Adi.
Thanks, Preeti. I just want to be respectful for everybody's time. Number five.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Actually, we are running past time, so we cannot take any more questions. We have a lot of questions coming in, but we'll try to get back to you and help the students with their queries. And Aditya, may I ask? I have a quick question for you, if I can. If I can take. Yeah. Yeah. So Aditya, actually, can you mute? Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So Aditya, my question is that online recruitment has taken a pace after the pandemic, and we have seen that companies have moved to online recruitment processes. And now, since the like after post-pandemic, how do you see the future? I mean, the companies will stay on the online recruitment process, or they move to the offline visiting of the colleges?
Yeah, so good question, and I think it's targeting me only. So if you look at recruiting has also evolved. There are two things which has evolved in the future, and in the future it'll be more like an hybrid era. Anubhav, not everybody needs to come into the office to have a discussion. It would be across what the candidate wants. It will be a candidate-led market. A lot of organizations are trying to look at assessment tools, and all of you who have been on the engineering side would have gone through some tests when they would have started working, and if they've worked for some time. So assessment tools will play a very important part as we grow up further up, because that will negate the bias out of that. You will also have gaming as an assessment format of assessing people, looking at from a cultural fit perspective, right? So that is one area. Organizations will look at a hybrid way of working, the way the direction they would want to move in. The good part is, since we have worked in a complete virtual setup, now the organizations know if the interview needs to go completely online, what is required. So it'll be a mix of both, but end of the day, it'll be what the candidate wants to quite a bit of extend what they want. But it'll be a mix of both, is what I see. Look at campuses, right? For the last 2 years, a lot of my engineering hiring, I've done everything virtual. So the amount of money I have saved by having not people travel, while I know how my panel will not be happy because they won't go to all these exotic places, but it is enabled for me as a leader to give back time to business, so that they are able to do their own work at that period of time. So it has its plus and minuses, but it will be a hybrid setup, really depending on the kind of work which we do. Anubhav.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Aditya. We are
Thank you.
also associating with online with all the companies, but again, we would like to have you all on campus and see the Himalayan and to Dr. Akhil also, we would like to invite you as soon as the campus opens.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
only
So
Adi
thank you
and
all the.
Akhil and not Pratyush and me, Anubhav?
I
He is
told it
coming
earlier.
one by one.
I told earlier we would like to invite all of you to our campus. Yeah. So now I'd like to ask Preeti to give the thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anubhav. Aditya, can you please? Yeah, thank you. First of all, on the behalf of IIM Sirmaur, I want to thank all the panelists. Thank you for joining us today, and I'll start with Preeti. Thank you, Preeti, for sharing your experience as well as talking about job opportunities. Yes, they have increased with COVID pandemic, and again, I agree that you mentioned the point that negativity spreads faster in online as compared to offline. But again, with this pandemic, more opportunities came. How, you discussed the art of storytelling, how to communicate, and how the spending of consumers has changed, and they have, shifted focus to more well-being consumption. And thank you, Dr. Akhil, for sharing that. Yes, there is definitely a need for companies to adapt to the new change, and definitely there has been witnessed a strong marketing change of digital currency as well as the online experience that you talked about when we are buying such high income or luxurious goods, talking about cars and all. And finally, I would like to thank Pratyush for sharing pre-pandemic, during pandemic, and post-pandemic situations, like
Sorry, I guess there is a network issue on Preeti's side. Uh, Yeah, so to wrap it up, we would like to thank Pratyush for sharing the insights and his experience around the topic. And also we'd like to thank you, Aditya, for beautifully moderating the session and helping run the topic and give us insights about all around how we can improve and how we can work in this pandemic and post-pandemic times. So thank you all the panelists and speakers, and we would definitely like to connect with you again. And yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Take care.
Goodbye.
Stay safe all. Bye.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Namaste and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all. Stay safe. Students, thank you for joining. You may now leave the session.